Hello, I am Zika Mantesha and I am a student from English Literature major, and this is my 7th semester in UNB. And this video is my submission for the first assignment of comparative literature class. So, comparative literature. At the first glance, I thought that the title of this class was pretty self-explanatory. I thought that we are going to learn about literature not as an independent individual pieces, but as an extension from one another that are comparable. I expected to learn how to compare two or more pieces of literature that may have some striking similarities, whether it would be similar topics, themes, characters, ideas, etc. that is explored in the text. But as I did a little more research, as I dig a little deeper, I found out that comparative literature is the study of two or more literature in comparison and their multi-dimensional component, including many aspects of life, such as philosophy, social, culture, history, gender, religion, and etc. According to Wikipedia, comparative literature is an academic field dealing with the study of literature and cultural expression across linguistic, national, geographic, and disciplinary boundaries. Comparative literature performs a role similar to that of the study of international relations, but works with languages and artistic traditions, so as to understand cultures from the inside. Comparative literature most of the time focuses on the works of the different languages, but there are also times where it examines the pieces of literature with the same languages, but from different culture or different nations that speaks the same languages. René Descartes said regarding comparative literature, "It is only by way of comparison that we know the truth precisely. All knowledge that is not obtained through the simple and pure intuition of an isolated thing is obtained by the comparison of two or more things among themselves. And almost all of the work of human reason consists without doubt in making this operation possible." Another quote by Henry Remarque saying that comparative literature is the study of literature beyond the confines of one particular country, and the study of the relationship between literature on one hand and other areas of knowledge and belief, such as the art, philosophy, history, the social science, the sciences, religion, etc. on the other. In brief, it is the comparison of literature of one literature with another or others, and the comparison of literature with other spheres of human expression. Therefore, I think in comparative literature, one of the goals of this study is to understand more about humans and how they may differ or similar across nation, cultures, language, and it is through comparing literary pieces from different nations, different language, and different cultures we may discover the difference, belief, nuances, biases, norms, history, philosophy, and much more things people have from across the world. Furthermore, a fundamental project of comparative literature is to cultivate reading across linguistic boundaries in order to highlight everything that the exclusive focus on national literature tends to obscure. As for an example, one that pops up in my head, which is the literature pieces from Indonesia that is kind of similar to literature pieces from that is using English languages, is Keong Mas. And in comparison to that is Cinderella. I am aware that most of the people pretty much remember the overall story of both of these stories, but I'm just going to summarize them just to refresh it a bit. So, the first one is Cinderella. It follows the story of Cinderella, who lived with her stepmother and stepsisters who were always mean to her. And one day, the prince announced a royal ball that Cinderella wanted to go to, but her stepmother won't let it. But with a spell from her fairy godmother, she could get to the ball with a pretty dress and with a carriage, but under one term, which is that the spell would only last until midnight. So she went to the ball and proceeded to dance with the prince. But the time is ticking and Cinderella must go home. When she got home, she told the fairy godmother about the experiences and listened as her stepsisters told a story about this beautiful unknown princess that was dancing with the prince. The next day, once again, her stepmother and stepsisters went to the party, leaving Cinderella at home. Once more, the fairy godmother helped her to get to the royal ball and she spent time with the prince until she forgot the term that the godmother told her. So she rushed out of the party, leaving one of her glass shoes. Then the prince went to the conquest to find the perfect woman that fit the shoe. Everyone, including Cinderella's stepsister, tried to fit the shoes, but they failed. Until the prince found Cinderella and asked her to wear the shoes, and surprisingly, it fits her perfectly. And her godmother appeared and brought back her dress with the magic, and then the prince decided to marry Cinderella, and then they lived happily ever after. The second story is titled Keongmas, which is a traditional folklore originated in East Java, Indonesia. The story took place in a kingdom named Daha. Its king has two daughters, Chandra Kirana and Dewi Galuh. One day, a royal prince came to visit and wanted to propose to one of the king's daughters, which is Chandra Kirana. Jealous of her sister, Dewi Galuh came to witch's house to ask for help. She wanted Chandra Kirana to be enchanted into something disgusting. And then the witch put a curse on Chandra Kirana and turned her into a snail. And then Chandra Kirana was thrown into the river. One day, a kind old woman who was fishing at the river found the golden snail and took it home with her. The next day, she went again to fish but did not catch any fish, and went home sad when she found out the food served on her table. And every day after that, after she went back home, she would be greeted with delicious food on her table without her knowing who made it. Until one time, she decided to take a peek and see who was the one who cooked the food. And then she was surprised to find Chandra Kirana in her human form. Then Chandra Kirana told her what happened. Meanwhile, the prince, Raden Inu, decided to look for Chandra Kirana himself. The witch heard about it and tried to ruin his plan by giving him false direction. On his journey, Raden Inu met this old man who was starving, and then Raden Inu decided to help him by giving him some food. Apparently, the old man that he just helped is somewhat of a magician, somewhat of a wizard, that he decided to help Raden Inu getting rid of this crow and give him the correct direction. Raden Inu then finally met Chandra Kirana and brought her back to the kingdom with the old woman. After that, Chandra Kirana told everyone what happened, and Dewi Galuh is punished. Raden Inu and Chandra Kirana then married, and they lived happily ever after. Now, let's take a look at some of the similarities between these two stories. So, in both stories, both of them followed a kind-hearted young woman, Cinderella and Chandra Kirana. And in both stories, the main character was depicted to relate to the stereotype of women. They both are depicted to be good at house chores. Cinderella was good with fashion, and Chandra Kirana was good at cooking. In both stories, the main character was also quite passive, I think. They were both depicted to be weak and less likely to stand up for themselves. They are painted to be someone who is a bit dependent. Therefore, they were both easily mistreated by the people around them. Cinderella was bullied by her stepmother and stepsister, while Chandra Kirana was cursed under the request of her own sister, Dewi Galuh. And both of them seem to be rooted under the same reason, which is, I assume, is jealousy. They would mourn and be less likely to do anything themselves until the supporting character came in. In the case of Cinderella, it is the fairy godmother who helped her to go to the royal ball. And in the case of Chandra Kirana, it is the kind old woman who helped her on the river. And that is one of the things that I find similar in both stories. Another one is that both of the stories also includes a charming prince looking for a suitable wife, and also this is merely a pure speculation of me, but in both stories, the problem faced by the two female protagonists seems to be solved by having a charming, strong prince to be their husband. That is why they ended with happily ever after the female character married with the prince. This is an old trope of old stories, I assume. And it is fascinating to me that in two different nations with two different cultures, they both have somewhat of a similar belief that by being married to a wealthy, charming man, a woman's problem would simply go away. Their problem would simply be solved. It kind of depicts the man as the savior of the woman's misfortune, and the story ended up with the infamous happily ever after. And I think that is one thing that I expected to learn in this class, the comparative literature class. Because going back to what Rene said previously, it is only by way of comparison that we know the truth precisely. And yeah, that is it for the video. Thank you for watching. Bye.